Hey, how's it going, everybody? Rasati out here in Singapore, and you are listening to the Light Owl podcast. Getting back into the swing of things, today's been kind of quiet. I know y'all miss me. I think I dropped 4 podcast episodes yesterday, and then today was just back to the grind, kind of like just catching up with housework, doing little things around the house, just being Rasati. Anyway, now that things have calmed down, baby girl is asleep, I figured I'd jump back on here and talk to you about something that I've been kind of digesting, a concept that I've been working on in the last couple of days, because obviously we just got through Valentine's Day. Everybody had messages, everybody had posts up. A lot of people spoke up about how, seeing other people post about how lovey-dovey their lives are kind of like triggered them into old memories of how they've been hurt. I know people were comparing notes on what they got for Valentine's Day versus what their friends got for Valentine's Day. I know people went out on trips. So there's just a lot of energy out there. Good, bad, and ugly, but it's to be expected. And it got me thinking as well, though, because in this day and age, a lot of us are worried about how we get to that next conversation. It's not about how we choose to show love. It's more about how do we get to that next conversation. From the first date onwards, right? We're trying to put our best foot forward, trying to impress the other person, trying to make sure that we guarantee ourselves another chance to see the person that is the object of our affections at the time. And people don't seem to realize that it's only delaying the process of finding out if you are a good match or not, because you're putting this good foot forward, because you're altering parts of yourself to be, the best version of you that might fit what you think that they're expecting, so that you can guarantee that next date, or a girlfriend-boyfriend situation. To go from a first date towards dating seriously is kind of a big deal, right? That's the whole point. That's what most of us are going for. But it's also self-defeating in one aspect, because what you're trying to do, which is the goal at that point, is not to get to know each other, but to get to that next conversation, is actually defeating your entire purpose of looking for a mate. We settle very quickly in that regard. If you're going to adjust yourself to fit the person that you're with, then you're settling, rather than testing boundaries and talking about, shared goals and shared belief systems, where your parents came from, what your parents taught you, what your childhood was like. We don't talk about none of those things in the first few dates, and we should be. And even then, if we do, it's like, okay, well, I have one in the hand. I don't want to lose that person. I'm going to do everything I can to get to that next situation or whatever, right? So, with that being said, I wanted to talk about this concept that I've kind of been ruminating on for a couple of days now, because of Valentine's Day. Of course, like everybody else, I went back and I thought about, all the Valentine's Days I've lived through in my life. And to be very honest, I don't think I've ever actually celebrated Valentine's Day. As much as I would like to say that I celebrated, I did my part. I think I gave love or showed love in whatever capacity I felt like showing it. But outside of that, I don't think I've ever been treated as far as, Valentine's. It was never a big deal in the relationships that I was in. And as much as I would like for it to have been something, just another excuse to show love, it just wasn't the case. And I'm not saying that it was a bad thing or a good thing. I'm just stating a fact. But going back and looking at that, I started to wonder, well, why is that? How come it didn't become this big thing? Obviously, yes, it's a commercial holiday or whatever. It's meant to drive people to the store and get them to buy things, like another Christmas or another birthday or another anniversary celebration. But more than that, I was trying to think of, well, why wasn't it such a big deal? I take all these commercial holidays, and that includes, Grandparents' Day, Teachers' Day, Students' Day, Children's Day, whatever it's called here, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all those things. I take them all as another excuse to just show love. And that's part of the reason why I entitled this podcast episode, Just Be Love. Because how I want to show love should be the priority. It shouldn't be, how do I get them to message me back? How do I make sure that I stay in control of the situation? How do I make sure that they respond to me somehow? A lot of y'all talk about, my message was left on scene. I didn't get the blue tick, but I know that it was delivered. DMs on Instagram can show you that, somebody's seen the information that you're putting out there, but you get offended when it wasn't responded to right away. Or maybe they responded, but it wasn't quite in the detail that you were hoping because you wrote a lot and they wrote a little. Whatever the case may be, the point being that I think you should show love the way you want to show love, because that is another way of testing the relationship to see if you're a good match or not. Rather than putting it off until you have like a major blowout and then you'll be like, I didn't like you anyway, I didn't like this, that, and the other, you might as well tell them in the beginning. And that's something that I am very, very big on. And even I sometimes find myself questioning because you don't want to offend anybody either. In my case, it's not about getting to the next conversation. It's about, okay, I want to do this because it feels good to me and this is how I show love, but I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want them to feel like, I'm triggering something in them. Everybody has a past. So I'm very, very cognizant in that point, but it's also limiting to me because I'm not being who I really am. Obviously, the simplest idea, the simplest piece of advice I can give you in this situation is to just be yourself. And if they like it, great. And if they don't like it, that's not the one. You just keep on looking. But that's not the way our society looks at dating. They don't look at dating like you're trying on different pairs of shoes to see which one fits the best. They look at it like, oh, you're with one person, you need to stay with that one person. Dating around is bad. Dating around means you have loose morals or low expectations or whatever the excuses that people are talking about why people date around a lot. But that's not the case. How do you know what you like unless you've tried a couple of things? How do you know what your favorite ice cream is like unless you've tried a bunch of different flavors to know that, okay, out of all of the ones that I've tried, this is my favorite? How do you know if, the haircut you have right now is the best for you unless you've tried a bunch of haircuts and found out that, this one is your preferred length or preferred color? Maybe even, the preferred barber. In every other aspect of life, we're encouraged to try variety, except for in love. And even then, it's like difficult to explain to the older generation why it's essential that we do what we know. Like we show people how we love to love. Maybe you've heard of the 5 love languages, maybe you haven't. But that's something that I go over when I start with new clients. I want you to know yourself better than anything else. Because once you know yourself, then you can actually tell people what you expect. 5 love languages, right? So what people don't realize is, as beautifully explained as Gary Chapman explains this concept, there are 2 lists. The way you like to show love is not always the same as the way you like to receive love. And out of the 5, it's not that you pick one, it's in order of priority. Which one is your favorite, and then your next favorite, and so on. Because how you show love is usually a combination of all 5. How you like to receive love is a combination of all 5. But people don't think about these concepts. So the only reason I'm on here talking about love in the first place and how to just love is because I want you guys to really pay attention. I want you guys to be yourselves from the beginning. Of course you want the second date. Of course you want the person to call you back or message you back. Of course you don't want to push them away because maybe you're too intimidating or maybe you're too, overwhelming with the way you show love. But isn't that what we're all aching for anyway? We want someone who really wants to show us love. And if you have it to give, why not give it? It's love. It's free. Now, the difficult part is to give it without expectation. The difficult part is to give it because you want to give it. If you were to give love and expect it right back in return, that's called a business transaction. That means that I gave you something and I'm expecting something back. It's like I'm paying for a service or a product. That's a business transaction. That's not love. Love does not expect anything. Love just is. You're supposed to spread that shit everywhere. So when I look at my daughter and how I show her love, I do things because I want to do things. I do things because I know it will bring a smile to her face, and that's enough for me. And the same thing with my ex-husband and my ex-fiance, my stepchildren, any of those people, my cousins, my friends, anybody who's been in contact with me, I think I can safely say that they would agree with me that I do this. I do because I can. I do because I want to. I feel the urge to show love, to speak love, to spread love. I do that because I want to, not because I want anything in return. And I want you all to live that same way, because when you start getting used to giving love, it does come back to you, but from different places. It comes back to you in different ways. There is never anything wrong by showing love, as long as you don't expect anything in return. Now, that is the hard part. Like I said, it's hard not to just look for, okay, well, how do I make sure this person responds to me? You've all been there. I mean, as much as you want it not to admit it out loud, you've all been there. You've had that one person that DMs you and you've been waiting for them to DM you. And it's so excited to hear from them that you try to engage the conversation as long as possible. And of course, life happens. So maybe they go to the bathroom or they have to go back to work and they don't message you for a while and you get panicky and you're trying to control the situation. So what do? You do whatever you can based on the limited knowledge that you have to get them to write you back. Now, I've had people talk to me about the fact that, you know what, they've sent pictures, they've sent nudes, they've sent, they've started a fight just to see the other person respond again. I've heard all of it. It's terrifying sometimes to hear these things, but I've heard it all. The fact is, when you do that, though, you're looking for that next interaction, but you're not doing it from a place of love. You're not doing it from a place of, I want to show you that you're on my mind. You're doing it from a place of, I need you to respond to me because I need to know that I'm still relevant to you, that I'm still the object of your affection, that I still matter to you, that you haven't moved on in the 5 minutes that you haven't spoken to me. Is that desperation? Because we're so connected, we expect for the connection to be instant every time, every time. That instant gratification thing, it's hard to beat. It really is. It's why people cheat right now. It's why people go onto social media and do everything they can to get likes and comments because that's the only source of validation they have. They don't trust that they are enough on their own. And so they're looking on the outside to see if people will justify their selfie of the day, even though it was one of 1,000 they just took, and then finally felt safe enough to post online. I've heard it from many different sources. I've heard it from men and from women. I've heard it from, gay and straight people. I've heard it from everyone. They want that next interaction. They get offended when they don't hear back from the other person. I've had people who have tried to get in touch with me through my DMs, and the minute the conversation gets to a point where it's not really looking for business type interactions, it's not looking for advice or a counseling relationship, they're trying to flirt with me, I politely tell them, hey, this is a business page. I'm not looking for love at the moment. And they tend to get offended. Why? Because they want that connection. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. And I get it. I really get it. But that's not what I'm here for. And if I show you love in the form of advice or concern or checking up on you, it's not because I'm in love with you guys. It's because I'm showing concern, because I notice that something's off with you, because I want you to know that I see you and I hear you and I understand. For my family, when I show you love, it's usually in the form of food or some kind of care, but it's because I love you and because I want to show you that love. I don't want people to mistake the fact that I am putting in the time and effort because I want something in return. That's not who I am. That's not how I operate. If I invite you over for a meal, it's not because I want to get to know you better, hint, hint. No, that's not that case at all. It's because I think we have a really great connection and I would love to develop a friendship. I think that this is a great place, a great way for us to get to know each other in the fact that, this could be a great business relationship in the future maybe. I've made plenty of networking connections by just inviting people over for dinner. And obviously I'm discerning about who I invite, but it's because I can. It's because this is how I show love and affection. This is how I show people that they matter to me. I want you guys to stop second guessing whether you should or shouldn't post something, whether you should or shouldn't contact somebody. But I do want you to double check what your intention is when you do that. Are you trying to control the conversation, or are you doing it because you feel love in the moment and you want to share it? Trust me, I've had plenty of people who wanted to date me or have tried to, to get to know me better in that romantic sense. And sometimes it's a connection and sometimes it's not. And sometimes it falls apart on its own and sometimes it doesn't. But the point being that whenever I interact with that person, it's because I want to. And whenever I haven't heard from them in a while and I post or message them somehow, it's because the thought of them crossed my mind. And I wanted to let them know that the thought of them crossed my mind. Very simple. Very, very simple. Of course, we get attached to this idea of somebody messaging us all the time. We go through those phases where somebody messages us day and night, every day for a while, and then something happens and they disappear. It's normal now. It's painful to go through, but it is normal now. This is what people do. You hold their attention for a short span of time and suddenly they get bored and they disappear. It's the way things are. And it's okay. Because it's not about you, it's about them. And that's hard to understand as well. It's hard to wrap your head around. But like I said, if you're going to be love, you need to share it when you feel the love to share it without any expectation. You need to check your intentions about why you're messaging those people. Is it your anxiety kicking in? Is it your fear of abandonment? Are you worried about the fact that they've lost interest in you? Or are you going through and beating yourself up about every single interaction you've had between the last time they spoke to you and now, wondering if you made a mistake and upset them somehow? That's anxiety talking. That's fear. That's not love. I want you to be more of yourself from the beginning. Don't recreate yourself in the image of your idea of what they want. Be yourself so they can see the real you from the beginning. If they fall in love with you, they should fall in love with you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be. This is how you prevent divorce. Truly. So, with all of that being said, if you find yourself in a position where you're not entirely comfortable with what's going on, you find yourself intentionally grabbing someone's attention because your fear of abandonment is taking over, any of those things, if you need some help and some guidance, that's what I'm here for. Message me. Let's have a conversation. This is my life's work. Teaching people about their emotions, teaching people how to be just themselves, to love themselves so much that nothing that comes their way can take from who they are because they're already whole within themselves. Anything that comes their way going forward just adds to the experience, reminds you how whole you are. I want that for you guys, all of you. I want you to have peace in your life, at home and at work. I want you to feel loved all the time because you have chosen the people around you carefully enough to make sure that they are the ones that show you love in the first place, that you're continuing to share space with, to share attention with, energy with. It's important to me because whole people create more whole people. Loving people creates more loving people. This is how we shift the energy in the collective. This is how we heal the world one person at a time. Love. Share it every chance you get because you want to, not because you need something in return. I hope you understand what I'm saying here. If you have any questions, comments, please drop them in the comments below. I'll get to them. But in the meantime, love yourself. Enjoy who you are in this moment. Enjoy everything that there is around you. And spread the love as often as you can, because it does make a difference. It does save lives. All right, y'all, I'm out, and I'll catch you again soon. Good night.